You've been trying to align the financial sector with the vaccine distribution programs and trying to get one to help out the other. What has the experience been like? What can you tell us about the challenges you faced?
Well, first of all, we are the advisor on risk and financial matters to the COVAX facility that, as you know, has the cause of just distribution of vaccines for the world. And Gavi has transitioned from an agent to a principal. And by that, I mean that Gavi is actually taking risk in contracting with 9 manufacturers to deliver vaccines to 190 countries. So Citi has been working really tirelessly in that mandate across all elements of risk for the COVAX facility, everything from helping build financial and risk models, optimizing the contracts, mitigating vaccine and sovereign credit risk, de-risking the operations in the back end as we push more through this new COVAX facility, managing liquidity and of course, just governance and risk paradigms around what is no doubt since war, the greatest public-private partnership to come together in the vaccine world.
Jay, maybe you can provide some of the details in terms of the challenges you're facing on the ground. What are maybe the most difficult parts when it comes to financing this vaccine rollout across the world?
So first of all, you just talked about what it is like to see a large number of the wealthiest countries in the world that sign contracts for the first part of this year ahead of the developing countries. And so getting supply fast and furiously to the developing countries is a challenge. And on top of that, we had the headwinds of India. So COVAX has a target of 2 billion vaccines by year end. We think now that with the Indian situation, we've signed, and COVAX will sign a number of new contracts with J&J, with Moderna, with Novavax to get to 1.9 billion by the end of the year. So that has been a tremendous challenge. But funding is a challenge. I mean, quite frankly, manufacturing to scale with diverse geographies, developing funding strategies that are creative, including the 9.7 billion that's been donated by the G7 and others to the COVAX facility for the poorest 92 countries, and of course the variants.
Jay, how creative have you had to be? This is a new challenge. This is a new problem that you've got to solve. How much creativity has gone into this whole process? Can you kind of walk us through some of the kind of extreme situations that you found and how you've got around them?
Yes, so we've run this effort at Citi with a 27 banker team, 7 work streams, nonstop since October 23rd of last year. And it is run almost like war rooms. So it's just a constant battle. You're really building the plane as you fly it, if you will. In other words, it's a blank piece of paper to figure out things like dose sharing, where we have to share doses faster at scale. Complex challenges in distribution to countries around the world that don't have cold chain, that don't have the ability to receive vaccines at speed. But of course, fundamentally funding. And so we have had to mitigate risk and mitigate the risk by Gavi. That is a nonprofit that is taking large scale risk in the distribution and the commitment to purchase vaccines. That has required creativity and a lot of innovation in the team every day. There was no playbook when we walked in the room, and Gavi nor the COVAX facility team or other outside advisors like Linklaters and McKinsey had a playbook. We just walked in the room with our experience.
Well, speaking to Guy's question of what can be done that's differently here in terms of innovative capital market solutions, right? What are you doing by means of raising funds through bonds or other means? And what types of investors are the ones most likely to be making this work out for them? Are they seeking returns at the end of the day, or are they doing it for the good of the globe?
So let's break that down into 2. There are self-financing countries that can have access to capital markets to fund themselves, even weaker credit, double, single B countries have access at scale. And with the ESG market the way it is, anything that is in and around logistics, distribution, and purchase of vaccines can be done in an ESG-friendly way. The real challenge as we go into a variant world, as we go into higher WHO targets for next year, maybe moving from 20% to say 50, 60%, the amount of vaccines, the doses required for the world is multiples of where we are now. And that's going to require every book in the chest in terms of funding. For example, the use of SDRs so that countries can use this new IMF tool to fund vaccines. Of course, we have really failed to scale concessional funding out of the development banks at speed in a way that de-risks the COVAX facility, and that's where we've got to double down more. Yep. In other words, there will be more donations given, but we also need to put concessional funding into countries that can't afford to fund their vaccines, particularly going into the new year.
You said earlier on in this interview, you walked into the room with just your experience. There was no playbook. There is a playbook now. What do we take away from this? What does the situation look like post-pandemic? If you had to do it all again, how would you do it differently? I'm just kind of curious as to, now that the infrastructure almost exists, the institutional knowledge exists, what it would look like next time.
So 3 things. One is we can always get better. We're still getting better. Second, it's absolutely not over. I mean, these variants it is a race against the variants and the speed. We need a Marshall Plan of multiples of what's been committed so far to stop the variants from either full-on pandemic-like new mutation or super variants. And the world's got to understand that the amount of money's necessary to fund that dwarf or are tiny compared to what it would mean to relive what we went through last year. The mechanics are there. I think that what we've created in the COVAX facility, the partnerships, the public-private sector cooperation, are mechanisms that can be used for future pandemics. God forbid we won't have them, but we will need these mechanisms. And importantly, potentially even for climate change, global crisis where you need to come together with speed and scale, globality, and deliver solutions that mitigate risk and fund. Climate change looks a lot like this, and we've created mechanisms now to be able to do that.
Jay, this relates to getting back on the road, getting to other countries. You're doing a global effort, and I'm wondering how much your bankers are getting used to traveling again as they're doing their jobs, meeting global clients, or are there still concerns when it comes to the variants that are really keeping them from doing business like they used to?
So I think we're still watching the variant movie unfold, and it's not just Delta, but certainly the contagion speed of Delta is a cause for concern. Where clients want to see us, we're back in front, vaccinated face to face. Where clients prefer to continue to Zoom, we Zoom all day with clients around the world that want to do that. I think it's very much geography and client specific. We moved into a world where virtual can work, and so if people have a hesitancy, we can do that. But hopefully, we will move at least in vaccinated geographies deemed to be safe. We're in front of our clients where we can be.